Welcome back. What if a damaged state quarter in your pocket is worth millions? In this video, we uncover 4 extremely valuable Washington state quarters in bad condition. First up, the 1983 Washington quarter is one of the most discussed modern U.S. quarters among collectors, especially when the front side George Washington's portrait, often called shika in South Asian description, appears kasa-wa, rough, weak, flat, or uneven. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means it carries no mint mark, yet many people mistakenly search for a P on the coin. In 1983, the U.S. Mint did not sell official mint sets, causing fewer high-quality examples to be preserved, which is why collectors often say, finding a clean 1983 quarter is harder than expected. When the head side looks damaged or pressed down, it is usually due to heavy circulation, weak strike, die wear, or environmental exposure, not because the coin is rare by default. Many 1983 quarters show Washington's hair details flattened, the forehead dull, the cheek smooth, and the jawline blended into the field, leading people to believe something unusual has happened. In reality, circulation is the silent enemy of modern coins, and the early 1980s quarters circulated heavily in vending machines, buses, and daily commerce. The metal composition of this quarter is copper-nickel clad, which can develop dull gray patches, rough texture, or even small pits when exposed to moisture, sweat, or chemicals. If the shika looks pressed, melted, or uneven, it may be the result of grease-filled dies, where grease-blocked metal flowed during striking, creating weak details, especially in hair and lettering. Collectors describe such coins with phrases like soft strike, loss of hair detail, or washed-out portrait. Sometimes the surface appears shiny but uneven, which may indicate improper cleaning, and cleaned coins lose most of their collector value. As experts often warn, a cleaned coin is a damaged coin. The 1983 quarter becomes valuable only in exceptional conditions such as Mississippi 65 or higher, where Washington's hair strands are sharp, the eye is defined, and the fields are clean and lustrous. A worn or rough obverse, even if it looks unusual, usually places the coin in circulated grade, where its value remains close to face value. Some people hope the coin is an error, but true errors like off-center strikes, double dies, or broad strikes show clear, dramatic features, not just general wear. As many numismatists say, wear is not an error, and damage is not rarity. Environmental damage can also cause the portrait to look eaten away or rough, especially if the coin was buried, stored in damp conditions, or exposed to salt or chemicals. In such cases, the coin may look old or strange, but its collector demand drops sharply. The historical importance of the 1983 quarter lies more in its low survival rate in high grades rather than any special design change. When evaluating your coin, experts recommend looking at Washington's hair above the ear, the sharpness of the letters in Liberty, and the clarity of the date. If these are weak and smooth, it confirms circulation wear. Collectors often summarize this coin with lines like, "Condition is everything," and "Modern coins must be perfect to be valuable." In conclusion, a Washington quarter 1983 with a kasa-wa, worn, or damaged shika is historically interesting but usually not rare or highly valuable, unless it shows a confirmed mint error or survives in exceptional mint state condition. Next up, the 1986 Washington quarter is a modern U.S. coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally does not display a mint mark, even though many people refer to it as P. When collectors describe the shika kasa-wa high, they are usually observing a combination of circulation wear, weak strike characteristics, and surface deterioration that affect the portrait of George Washington on the obverse. In 1986, millions of quarters were produced for daily use, and these coins entered heavy circulation almost immediately, meaning the portrait was repeatedly exposed to friction from pockets, coin rolls, vending machines, and counting equipment. Over time, the highest points of Washington's head, especially the hair above the ear, the forehead, the cheekbone, and the jawline, began to flatten, creating what experts call loss of central detail. This flattened appearance often makes people believe the coin has been pressed or damaged at the mint, but in most cases, wear tells the real story. The copper-nickel clad composition of the quarter reacts to moisture, sweat, and environmental contaminants, which can produce a dull gray tone, rough texture, or patchy discoloration, giving the surface a casse-à-wall look. Many 1986p quarters also show signs of dye fatigue, where the minting dyes were used extensively, resulting in softer strikes that failed to bring out sharp hair strands and crisp facial lines, leading collectors to remark, the portrait looks weak from the start. In some examples, grease or debris filled the die cavities during striking, causing certain details to appear faint or missing, a condition known as a grease-filled die strike, which can create the illusion of flattening without actual wear. However, such coins are usually categorized as minor striking anomalies, not major mint errors. Another common factor is improper cleaning. When owners attempt to shine a dull quarter, they often scrub away metal, leaving microscopic scratches and an unnatural brightness, prompting experts to warn, cleaning destroys originality. A clean 1986p quarter may look shiny yet strangely flat, especially on Washington's hair and cheek, reinforcing the belief that the shika has been damaged. From a grading perspective, once the obverse shows heavy smoothing and the letters in Liberty lose sharp edges, the coin falls firmly into circulated condition, where its value remains close to face value unless a dramatic error is present. Collectors emphasize that modern quarters must be pristine to be valuable, and the 1986p is no exception. The historical significance of this coin lies not in rarity but in its role as a workhorse of everyday commerce during the mid-1980s, a time when few people saved high-quality examples. Only coins preserved in mint state Mississippi 65 or higher, with full hair detail, clear eye definition, and strong luster command premium prices. When the shika is casse-à-wall, it almost always indicates extensive circulation rather than a rare minting mistake. Environmental damage can further exaggerate this appearance. Exposure to damp soil, salt air, or chemicals can etch the surface, producing pits and roughness that mimic heavy wear, leading to the saying, damage can imitate rarity, but it is not rarity. True errors, such as off-center strikes, double dyes, or planchette defects, display clear, repeatable patterns that differ significantly from general flattening. In summary, a Washington quarter 1986p with a casse-à-wall shika is an interesting example of circulation history and minting realities, but unless it exhibits a confirmed major error or exceptional preservation, it remains a common coin whose story is told through wear rather than value, reminding collectors that condition is king, and detail is everything. Next up, the 1965 Washington quarter is one of the most historically important U.S. quarters ever produced because it marks the transition year from silver to clad coinage. Beginning in 1965, the United States Mint stopped using 90% silver for quarters and switched to a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change alone makes the 1965 quarter a coin that attracts attention from collectors, beginners, and the general public alike. Unlike earlier quarters, the 1965 Washington quarter has no mint mark, regardless of where it was produced. During this period, the U.S. Mint intentionally removed mint marks to discourage hoarding, which is why many people search for a mint mark and assume something is missing. In reality, no mint mark is completely normal for 1965. When a 1965 Washington quarter shows small cuts, nicks, or scratches, along with a toda Kasawa appearance, it usually reflects heavy circulation and post-mint handling rather than a mint error. These coins were produced in extremely large quantities, hundreds of millions, and entered circulation immediately at a time when quarters were used daily for parking meters, vending machines, public transport, and retail transactions. Over time, repeated contact with other coins caused bag marks, edge hits, and tiny cuts, especially on the highest points of the design. Washington's portrait on the obverse is particularly vulnerable. The hair above the ear, the cheekbone, and the jawline are the first areas to show wear. As collectors often say, the high points tell the story. A Kasawa surface on a 1965 quarter can result from several factors. The most common is circulation wear, where metal is slowly rubbed away, leaving the surface smooth, dull, and slightly flattened. Another cause is contact damage, which creates small cuts or lines when coins strike each other in bags or rolls. These marks are not mint errors. They are known as contact marks or post-mint damage, and they significantly affect collector value. Environmental exposure also plays a role. If the coin spent time in humid conditions, soil, or near chemicals, the copper core can react, sometimes creating dark stains, rough texture, or uneven coloration. This leads many people to think the coin is defective, but experts remind us that damage after leaving the mint is not a rarity. The absence of a mint mark on the 1965 quarter is often misunderstood. All regular issue 1965 quarters lack mint marks, regardless of whether they were struck in Philadelphia or Denver. Therefore, no mint mark does not mean rare. What truly matters is condition. A 1965 quarter with small cuts and slight flattening is considered circulated, and in most cases, its value remains close to face value. Collectors grade coins using a standardized scale, and once a coin shows obvious wear, scratches, and loss of detail, it falls into lower circulated grades. In these grades, collector demand is limited because modern clad coins must be exceptional to be valuable. Some people hope that small cuts or unusual surface texture indicate a mint error, but genuine errors have clear diagnostic features. For example, an off-center strike shows part of the design missing with a visible blank area. A double die shows clear doubling in letters or numbers. A planchette defect reveals metal flaws formed before striking. Random small cuts, scratches, or rough patches do not qualify as mint errors, they are classified as damage. As numismatists often warn, not every unusual coin is an error. Cleaning is another important factor to consider. Many 1965 quarters were cleaned by owners attempting to make them shiny. Cleaning removes the original mint surface and leaves fine hairline scratches that are visible under light. A cleaned coin may look bright but lifeless, with flattened details and unnatural shine. Professional collectors strongly discourage cleaning, repeating the rule, cleaning always lowers value. A clean 1965 quarter with small cuts and wear will be worth less to collectors than a naturally worn but uncleaned example. Historically, the 1965 quarter represents a major shift in American coinage policy. Rising silver prices forced the government to change metal compositions, and the public reaction was immediate. Many people saved pre-1965 silver coins and spent the new clad coins, which is why 1965 quarters are so common today. However, very high-grade examples, those that escaped circulation entirely, are much scarcer. Only mint state coins with sharp details, no cuts, and strong luster command premium prices. In contrast, a coin described as small cuts, toda kasa wa, reflects a life of circulation rather than rarity. From a collector's perspective, such a coin is still useful as a learning piece. It teaches how wear appears, how damage differs from errors, and how the clad layers look on the edge. It also holds educational value for new collectors studying the transition from silver to clad coinage. While it may not be valuable in monetary terms, it carries historical significance as part of everyday American commerce. As collectors often say, every circulated coin tells a story. In conclusion, a Washington quarter 1965 with no mint mark, small cuts, and slight kasa wa appearance is a normal circulated coin from a high mintage transitional year. The lack of a mint mark is correct, the small cuts are the result of contact and circulation, and the flattened or rough surface reflects wear or environmental exposure. Unless the coin shows a clear, verifiable mint error or survives in exceptional uncirculated condition, its value remains modest. Its true worth lies in history and education rather than rarity, reinforcing the collector's principle that condition, originality, and clarity define value. Next up, the 1985 P. Washington quarter is a modern United States coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P. mint mark located on the obverse to the right of Washington's ponytail. By 1985, the Washington quarter had long been produced in copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. These coins were made for everyday circulation, and enormous quantities were produced to meet public demand, which is why most surviving examples show clear signs of use. When a collector describes a coin as having small cuts and being toda kasa wa, they are usually observing the natural effects of circulation, handling, and contact damage rather than a mint error. As numismatists often say, circulation leaves fingerprints on every coin. The obverse front of the 1985 P quarter features John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington, and this design has several high points that are especially vulnerable to wear. The hair above the ear, the forehead, the cheekbone, and the jawline are the first areas to lose detail. When these areas appear slightly flattened or smooth, the coin is described as kasa wa, meaning the metal has been worn down through repeated friction. This does not mean the coin was defective at the mint, instead, it reflects years of movement through pockets, wallets, cash registers, vending machines, and coin counting equipment. Over time, the constant rubbing against other coins produces micro-abrasions that slowly reduce sharpness, giving the portrait a softer, less defined appearance. Small cuts on a 1985 P quarter are extremely common and are typically caused by contact with other coins. When newly minted coins are stored and transported in large bags, they strike each other repeatedly, creating small nicks, edge hits, and short scratches known as bag marks. Once the coin enters circulation, additional marks accumulate as it collides with harder objects such as keys or other coins. These cuts are classified as post-mint damage, meaning they occurred after the coin left the mint. Collectors emphasize that post-mint damage is not the same as a mint error, and such marks usually lower a coin's desirability. Another factor contributing to a toda kasa wa look is die wear. Minting dies are used repeatedly, and as they age, they lose sharpness. Coins struck from worn dies may show weaker details from the very beginning, especially in Washington's hair and facial features. This can give the impression that the coin was pressed unevenly or struck with low pressure. While this is a legitimate minting characteristic, it is considered normal and does not by itself make the coin rare. Minor issues such as grease-filled dies, where grease or debris blocks parts of the design during striking, can also cause certain details to appear faint. However, these are usually subtle and are not classified as major errors unless they are dramatic and clearly identifiable. Environmental exposure can further exaggerate wear. The copper-nickel surface of the 1985 P quarter can react to moisture, sweat, and chemicals, producing dull gray coloration, dark patches, or slightly rough texture. If a coin has been stored in a humid place or exposed to contaminants, the surface may look uneven or pressed, reinforcing the cassava description. Some coins also show signs of improper cleaning. When owners attempt to polish a coin to make it shiny, they often remove original metal and leave behind fine hairline scratches. A cleaned coin may appear bright but flat, with lost detail, prompting experienced collectors to warn, cleaning destroys originality. From a grading perspective, a 1985 P Washington quarter with small cuts and slight flattening falls into the circulated category. Grading is based on the amount of wear, sharpness of details, and overall surface condition. Once a coin shows clear wear on the high points and multiple contact marks, it cannot be considered mint state. For modern clad quarters like the 1985 P, collector value is heavily dependent on condition. As many experts state, modern coins must be nearly perfect to be valuable. Only coins preserved in high mint state grades Mississippi 65 or higher, with full luster, sharp details, and minimal marks, command premiums in the market. The absence or presence of a mint mark is another area of confusion. Unlike 1965-1967 quarters, which lack mint marks entirely, the 1985 quarter does have a P mint mark for Philadelphia. However, the presence of a P does not make the coin rare. Millions of 1985 P quarters were produced, and most entered circulation. Therefore, rarity is determined not by the mint mark alone but by survival in exceptional condition or the presence of a genuine, dramatic mint error. Collectors often hope that unusual marks or cuts indicate something valuable, but true mint errors follow recognizable patterns. Off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, and planchette defects have clear diagnostic features that differ from random scratches or wear. Small cuts scattered across the surface are almost always the result of contact damage. As a common saying goes, damage can look strange, but it is not rare. Historically, the 1985 P Washington quarter represents a period when U.S. coinage was purely utilitarian. Few people saved rolls of uncirculated coins, and most quarters were used heavily. This is why genuinely high-grade examples are harder to find today, even though the overall mintage was large. For most circulated examples, including those with small cuts and toda cassava surfaces, the monetary value remains close to face value. However, such coins still hold educational and historical value. They demonstrate how clad coins wear over time, how contact marks develop, and how to distinguish wear from errors. In conclusion, a Washington quarter 1985 P with small cuts and slight cassava appearance is a normal, circulated example of a widely used modern U.S. coin. The mint mark, P, is correct and expected, the small cuts are the result of contact and handling, and the flattened or rough areas reflect circulation and environmental exposure. Unless the coin shows a clear, confirmed mint error or survives in exceptional uncirculated condition, its value is modest. Its true importance lies in the story it tells about everyday commerce and the realities of modern coin production, reminding collectors that condition, not age alone, defines value. Please like and subscribe to my channel.